See that you're born an Italian if you want your life to be great. See that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great.
How about some Donatello?
That's a nice.
Hey there, Paisani, and welcome back to another episode of the Italian American Podcast. I'm John Viola, along with the Italian American Wikipedia, Mr. Patrick O'Boyle. We are coming to you from the corner of Mulberry and Grand, the heart of Little Italy, the crossroads of Italian America, Red Sauce Studio. We are very, very proud to be with you today. Hopefully you guys like what we do, and if you're watching us on YouTube or listening wherever you get podcasts, you'll give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscription. We really want to pass on everything that our people is about, and we do that in a lot of ways here at the Italian American Podcast. I think the best of which, even though I love this show, is something we created a couple of years ago in South Florida called Italian American Future Leaders. You've heard us talk about it before. It's now alarmingly quickly approaching IAFL 3, and I'm very, very proud that today we have an alumnus from IAFL 1 who is with us. He's done
pioneer.
A pioneer. You were there from the beginning, right? Like the 12 apostles. You had to be there from the first, and he was, and he's been a great and active part of our movement since then, and his own efforts that we're going to tell you all about today that are diverse and interesting and alarmingly close to being considered a professional Italian American, I think, which I would advise against going totally down that path because you got to be a little bit nuts.
But look at the goodies.
To do,
I've been raising my hand. Yeah. He brought goodies.
He's been.
The thing that defines our people is 90% who come here come with food.
That's right. And if you're out there and you get invited to be on the show in the future,
look at this.
It doesn't hurt to come with food. It's you know. You get
Is that
priority in
Super
the
Sonic?
episode posting. Wait, let's introduce Mike. Mike D'Amore.
The Gabagool.
IAFL alum. We got here.
I've been intimate.
What did you
I'm
bring?
sorry.
Tell us.
This is my girlfriend's father's homemade capicola.
That's the best.
He brought us homemade wine. We've got cheese, a cracker to go with it.
Oh.
This is who we are as a people.
I've been intermittent fasting for 24 hours. You know, I thought I was going to go for 28, but I still am.
He's like the happiest he's been.
I'm so happy.
I
Mike,
was very
we
touched.
love you for many reasons.
Yeah.
But
this
of
helps.
all you've done, this, thank you very much. This takes the cake.
I was touched by the fact that one of the things I don't know why it's become like a thing for me. I didn't grow up eating a lot of capicola, however you want to say it. But my wife's dad, my father-in-law, he and his best friend from Calabria, they make it, and they're rightfully proud of it. And I relate it to him, and I think something about finding a person that family holds the same, like there's just, I don't know, whenever he makes this stuff, I think back to when my family made things and, you know, our wine or this and that, jarring tomatoes with my in-laws, and it might not be the most PC thing in the world to say, but when you find the other slipper in your life, it's just really easy when you share these kind of things. So it warms my heart that you two have in-law capicola coming your way.
I have never had better.
Don't tell my father. Oh, that's because I never delivered his.
No, I never got it.
I'm going to get in big trouble. You know
what?
what?
Supposed to bring it to me, but that disappeared too. See, when you send me food through intermediaries, it doesn't come to me. So when you text me about the super side you gave somebody, it didn't come to me. So I'm either going to lie to people. I never had your food. This is found. This is off. So I'm not just saying because you're in the room. This is like better than you getting it all.
You know,
some Italians gonna go nuts. It's on Italy levels, higher.
We're gonna be with my father-in-law in a couple weeks to film up in upstate. I'm gonna have to fess up that I never gave you the capicola. I'm gonna have to confess, and it's been in my fridge, but somebody else delivered a homemade one, and I can't tell them apart. Mm-hmm. So I never knew which one to give you. So they've just been sitting there.
Do a blind taste test.
I'm gonna just have to fess up. Say, Papa, I love my father-in-law, but anyway,
you got the best father-in-law.
I have a great father-in-law. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So
you got a
guys
great
for bringing
package.
this.
The Coke came with a good package.
I did really well, I have to say, but I fished in my own pond, right? I mean, it was easy when you meet somebody, and look, you see some of the people that met at IAFL, and you guys are both alumni, right?
Yeah.
That's but you brought her.
Yeah.
You recruited.
Yeah, she came to 2.
You guys were already.
Oh, really? You brought her?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We met in between 1 and 2.
That's awesome.
Yep.
No, nothing better than telling your mate that you got to join this thing. tell us a little bit about your background, because it's interesting, I think, for the audience, and where you ended up, how you're doing stuff. You brought all this stuff with you to IFL. You were already pretty active in the community and Sons of Italy, and so give us a little bit of background.
Yeah. So I grew up in Rome, New York, where my parents lived separate places. My father's family was Long Island, but mostly I grew up in Rome, New York. And like I was telling Pat earlier, Oneida County is the only county in the state of New York that has per capita the same Italian population as the city area.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I grew up not even knowing there was non-Italians. Like, it was just, I went and left for the Army at 18, and it was like, wait a minute, what do you mean your last name's Smith? What is this? Doesn't exist.
What a wonderful feeling that must have been.
Yeah.
Right? To, like,
it was a culture
yeah.
shock. Yeah. And so I grew up there, and all 18 years had a blast, loved it. Italian culture is just everywhere. You don't. It's intrinsic in who you are. And then went to the Army. Spent some time in Louisiana, 3 years, not New Orleans, about outside in a place called Leesville, Fort Polk. And when I got out, I knew I didn't really want to go back to New York, not necessarily for, not wanting to be in an Italian area, but more just I wanted somewhere new, but not the deep South either. I wanted somewhere kind of in the middle. I found myself in Raleigh, North Carolina. And in Raleigh, I found a couple of groups that met my qualifications of groups I wanted to be a part of, and how can I find people who grew up like I did and who had the traditions that I did. Maybe they spoke some of the language. So I found the Sons of Italy, which was in Raleigh, joined them, and became vice president. And I've been doing that for 3 years now. I found the Triangle Italian American Heritage Association, which is a men's club in the Triangle. And I was vice president of that for a year. And I stumbled myself into the third Festa Italiana of Raleigh. I volunteered to show up at 3 a.m. and help unload chairs. That turned to me leaving at 11 p.m., reloading the chairs.
Of course.
And then they asked me to come on, and I joined the board. And that's when I had gotten to IAFL. Weirdly enough, a gentleman I knew from those organizations had a friend who was with the Columbus Foundation, I believe in Syracuse, protecting the Syracuse statue. And that got sent because Bob had talked to this gentleman so often, I guess, about me. He said, this is someone that has to go, and sent it to Bob. Bob sent it to me. I applied to IAFL, and thankfully you guys took me.
Everything right in what we were trying to do for that to trickle down to you. Just for those who are uninitiated, the triangle you're talking about is Raleigh,
Durham and Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill, right? Yep. In North Carolina. Not an area that most people think of as Italian American. I'm sure with recent internal immigration around the country and people relocating. Of those three organizations, Osaya in Raleigh, the Triangle Italian American Association, and the Festa, which one's the oldest and how old is it?
The order is the oldest. Actually, we just turned 20 this year.
All right.
Yeah, we just celebrated that on the 12th. We celebrated our 20th birthday. Members of that started Festa Italiana, that would have been 5 years ago. And Tiaha.
I love our acronyms. Say that again.
Everything. Tiaha.
Tiaha. That sounds
Triangle
that's like you wrote
Italian
laughter
Heritage
into a script. Tiaha. Only we could come up with these things.
Yeah, and I believe members. Actually, no, I'm wrong on that. Tiaha was started first. Oh. Certain men wanted their wives to join the club to turn it into a co-ed club, if you will. And when that didn't happen, there was quite a schism. If you
there you go.
Oh, what a shock!
Yes.
Now you know it's the real Italian community.
There
you go. Bingo, bango. That's what you need.
Yeah.
And then there's plenty of people, I'm sure, who are members of both.
There are. We have dual members for sure.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yep.
We are. Well, look, I mean, we are part of the Italian Sons and Daughters of Italy, right? ISDA. OSIA, or now OSDIA, Italian Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, because these acronyms do add up. There was another one, actually, that split off too, but ISDA split off from, I keep calling it OSIA, I can't.
Or did Osaya split off from ISDA?
No, ISDA split off in the 30s.
This is a complicated history.
But my point is, this is how we grow. We're like the cell that reproduces by splitting, right? That's just who we are.
Yes.
It's indicative of a healthy community, I guess. So you've been doing the Festa now for a couple of years, and a big part of it. You came down to IFL to see us. Tell us a little about what that experience, as really as much as we are plugging the IFL, it's also for us means a lot. What did that experience do to evolve your roles in your community as an Italian American?
I mean, it connected me with absolutely amazing people. People I didn't know existed. Like I said, I mean, I was in Rome, and then I was in the army. Not a whole lot of Italians in my unit. I didn't know that there were these young people who knew the language or wanted to learn the language, who were working on their citizenship, who were starting their own festas, who were finding these, as it came coined in IAFL2, these Italian deserts, and trying to start a reservoir there. It was just...
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Build a
it
reservoir.
hit me,
That
yeah.
was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Build a reservoir in an Italian desert. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
That's
no,
great. We're
that's-
gonna,
That
John's
should be
gonna put that on a t-shirt.
that should be a topic at the IFL3. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So just to meet these people and realize and to collaborate with them, to add ideas, find out what was working. My club's not particularly Sicilian heavy, and growing up Sicilian, St. Joseph's Day was very important to me. So taking things that people like Patrick Campese was doing in New Orleans to represent the Sicilian community there and bring them to Raleigh, I'm pretty certain to say my club now has the largest St. Joseph's Day altar in the state of both state of the Carolinas.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, not a high bar.
Well, but still, I mean, people are constantly bemoaning and we talk about this a lot, the indifference of younger generations and the death of this and the death of that. And then you go and see how impactful we can be with one another when put in a place and instructed to, you do you, right? You
Right.
tell us where's the future. And I can see these wonderful, reservoirs springing up in places, and even places that aren't deserts. Just the sprigs of new life that come out of the interaction and the alchemy of people is really incredible. And thanks to people like you who have heard the call, because we basically said, take this over and run with it. And you guys have, right? Let's talk a little bit about how the interaction and work on the future of the future leaders has been for you guys who are active in it.
Active in IFL going forward?
Yeah, sort of moving it forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed, like what I think we want to do with IAFLs. Talking to Patrick the other day, now that we're talking about breakout sessions, things that will interest people from all over the place. We were talking about certain classes how to teach people how to do a feast. Taking people from all over the country who are doing a thing really, really well, saying, you're now the subject matter expert. This person wants to learn how to do it. And moving that pin forward by saying, hey, Mike needs to help Antonio because Antonio doesn't have a festa. He knows he wants it and no one wants to help him. What does he need to do?
Yeah.
It's tremendous to have a resource now where you can go and you can just pick somebody's brain. There's probably 40 group chats of IAFL alum just throwing ideas out there.
Because it's this group and then there's that
Right,
group.
yeah.
And then there's
Very
another
good
group that two of them
specifications,
are in.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's like the idea that you're building an Avengers, right? Like everybody's got their speciality and everybody's got their expertise, and I love that. So I'm so thankful for what you're doing and for everybody, all of these men and women who are really taking this over. First of all, I'm also really thankful that I don't have to do trivia this year. I don't have to do SWAT, and there's people going to do it better than me, and I get to sort of sit back and. That's the
Can I interrupt?
best thing I could ask for.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone
Yeah, I'm
out
gonna
there
eat.
is looking at this and you're longing for it. You have no idea how good this is.
Yeah, it's really good.
You think it's really good. It's better than you can imagine.
I can't believe that's homemade.
Oh,
That is really good.
I told you.
I'm never going to say best because I have a father-in-law who may catch a clip. It's really good. I can't believe that's homemade.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. Thank you. Wow, that's very good. I lost my train of thought because we're eating really, really good meats, which makes me happy.
What I'm going to do is when I go home, I'm going to be trying to deconstruct it.
You're going to be
I'm
making
going to my
recipe.
brain. Oh, my God.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your other stuff because you are, I'm going to say recently, it's not that recently, back from Calabria.
Yeah.
Right? Tell everybody about that experience, what's at the root of it, what it was like, and what brought you there and what you found.
Yeah, my grandmother came here in 1970, and no, I'm sorry, 1963. 1963. She was born in 1950. Came here at 13 years old from Calabria.
To Rome or Long Island?
She ended up in Rome. Yeah, her family ended up in Rome. So there's, funny enough, on my father's side, we are all Sicilian. My family found themselves in Calabria before they immigrated over to the States.
Makes sense.
Moved to Catanzaro for work after the war.
That happened to my family. My grandfather was born in and emigrated from Campania.
Okay.
And we could never find anything beyond him
Yep.
until we realized my great-grandfather and everybody before was from Basilicata. So it was just the same thing.
Okay. We did that And then anyone from Stalaty and anyone from Botticello went to Rome, New York. It's like this little enclave of their descendants. And so that's actually how my parents met, was the Calabrese one and the Sicilian who moved to that Calabrese region found themselves in the same area. And my grandmother, after she retired, what she did was she kind of created the model you might know as the J1 student model. Ocean City, Maryland was a city that had maybe 10,000 people, locals, but then it becomes 1 million during the summer. They needed foreign college students to work. So accidentally, she gets thrown in this world of the J1 visas and creates this program where she goes over to Europe, brings students over, has them work in the summer shops. She wanted to retire back to Calabria. So right as I get out of IAFL 1, she has a place in Calabria. I've never been. My family never really looked back. And so now was my time. I've got these people, these friends who can point me in the right direction. I've got a friend from OSDIA who runs the Rome Lodge for OSDIA. Carmelo, he met me at Rome, took me out to lunch so I could have Roman amatriciana, and then helped me figure out that train system to get down to Lamezia Terme, where my grandmother picked me up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So for you, it was going back for the first time.
Yeah.
But with all of this built up awareness, right? Because it's not like you didn't know these towns were, you knew all this stuff. You just, I guess, never actualized on it to go.
Right.
So what did you discover?
I'm like, as I put in a post to tell the world that if you haven't been to Italy yet, you need to get there. There's not a word for it in English. I discovered a place that I'd never been to, and yet it was home. I had found a place that I couldn't have met a single friend because everyone became family. It was amazing to have someone who just didn't even know if we were related, but had my great-grandmother's maiden name, and they were like, you're coming over for dinner. It's just, a different dinner in a different house and a different night. Lunch here. They knew I wanted to do this, so someone would just drive me that day. My grandmother couldn't because she was a catechist teacher, so someone else took me to the market in Soverato. The town priest takes me down to Sicily because he knew I'm 3/4 Sicilian. I couldn't be there that close and not get to Sicily. So we just made a 3-day trip of Airbnb from Messina to Cefalù to Palermo.
Wow.
Yeah.
You by San Vito sul Ionio. Soverato, I think, is next to San Vito sul Ionio. Are you by the Ionian Sea?
Yeah, so we're if you're in Soverato, you're going closer to Catanzato. We're quite literally maybe 30 minutes south of Catanzato in a town called Stalaty.
They make great cheese in that area.
I can't tell you I've had anything bad in that area.
And then marrying it with the cheese.
It's one thing about the South. I used to talk about this a lot. Like, go to the big cities nowadays, maybe Naples, I don't know, Palermo. I used to be all throughout Italy, you never had a bad meal, right? When I was a kid, you just anywhere you went. And then, like, tourism really did eke up, and there are plenty of places now. Even the Italians confess that you just don't want to eat anymore. I think it's exponentially better in the South. The more undiscovered a region is, the more
no doubt.
the more easy it is to hit the bullseye on the food target. Because I dream about cheeses that I've eaten. Where else in the world can you do that? An ingredient. The only other food in all my travels globally, I've been all over the world. Once, I had a mussel with some rice mixture in Turkey on the water in Istanbul. That I still, other than that, it's always been Italy. And it's always been off the beaten track stuff. So I can imagine you ate fantastically. What was the road trip through Sicily like?
It was amazing to take that ferry across the strait to get into Messina, and then to stop at a place. One of the priests that took us practiced in Sicily. So he was like our local tour guide. And to get a beer in this place, an espresso in this place, an arancino and an arancina, having all the different, the experience to go from town to town, see Etna, see Cefalù, which has some of the most gorgeous views in the world. I was with priests, so naturally we saw every cathedral that there was to see.
It's like traveling with you.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Every time we travel, if we have to walk from one place to the next for meetings, I have to allot time because we're going to stop and it's great. We stop in every church.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of great things.
Saw a lot of great, amazing stuff.
Sicily being so drastically diverse to see a almost the Arabic inspired architecture, the Greek, the Sicilian, the Italian. it's just tremendous going from place to place. The cathedral in Palermo is like a mosh posh of it all.
It blows your mind.
Right?
The cathedral. I'm thankful when John took me when we went to Sicily. The first thing we saw was the cathedral, and I thought that laid out the itinerary for the whole trip because it's such a mosh posh. What was the word you used?
Yeah.
That's so accurate.
Yeah.
And Sicily is a quilt.
Yeah.
And different patches have different kinds of history in it.
Right.
And that cathedral and the Cappella Palatina are like the two places where you get that right off the bat.
Right.
People think, I'm sure I repeat myself, but I always say, like, I'm only a quarter Sicilian, but it's how I feel very Sicilian. And to me, when you go to the Cappella Palatina with an eye for history and aesthetic,
Yep.
and you see this stalactite or stalagmite Arab ceiling, and then you see all of the beautiful, glowing Byzantine mosaics, really the best in what was then Byzantine territory, and then the Roman Latin porphyry floors. You just keep doing like the up and down because they shouldn't blend so
Yeah,
beautifully,
right.
but they do, and you realize that room is everything that's right with Sicily. It's of course it's a chapel, and religious tolerance was unprecedented in that place. So it's an amazing island.
Cultures and religions mishmashed there.
Yeah.
The way everything else did.
Yes, absolutely
Because
right.
it was the dead center of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, and
So
Judaism.
everything Sicily was 10% Jewish.
Yeah, absolutely.
At, I guess, until 12 something? 1290, 1260?
1280s. It was the Vespers by that point. Yeah, but by the end of the Hohenstaufen period, you had.
Because Palumbo's a Sicilian Jewish name.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Those kind of things to be able to track by names is amazing. But so to go from Calabria to Sicily, especially near Cosenza, which is sort of the Neapolitan Calabrian side. What were the standout differences between the two? Did anything kind of strike you as, other than the aesthetics, the people? Were they very different?
It's interesting. I would say Sicilians were a bit more reserved. It's funny in some of these smaller towns because we went to smaller towns. We didn't just hit the big ones, but you can hear Sicilian Siciliano spoken, and then when they assume that you're not the local, it switches, and it's just so fascinating to see they know you're not from there, and we are. I mean, everyone I was there with was living in Calabria, but they know.
Yeah.
They know that they can see it, and but I can't say I met a single person who wasn't lovely.
Yeah.
They were reserved. They didn't necessarily know, who I was, but they didn't treat me any differently. And I loved being in Italy. Was one of the biggest ego boosts for me because no one ever spoke to me in English. They didn't think I was American. They didn't think I was Sicilian. They knew they're a little different than us. But no one ever went up to me and said, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah.
And that was just lovely. Everyone you felt like you were at home. And it was amazing to go to each different place and see everyone's a little different. Cefalu's different than Palermo's, certainly different than Catania, and to try each local kind of delicacy. You can't leave Catania without granita con brioche.
Oh yeah.
So
there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Well, in Catania, did you try horse?
no.
Next trip.
Yeah, funny enough, with my family, I guess we were always trying desserts. It was it's a family friendly podcast, but the tits of Saint Agatha.
Yeah.
Brioche, granita con brioche. You get to Palermo. You try a cannolo. I mean, there was clear things. Bought a capicola and cefalu.
Yeah, you can't beat that stuff.
Yeah.
I went with my in-laws when my wife and I were dating. We did a trip. A friend of theirs runs a trip every year, and they're teachers. And we went from Campania through Calabria to Sicily. No, excuse me, reverse that. We went all the way up through, all the way to Rome. And the first day in Sicily, we were walking around, and I had to get the brioche with, I like it with pistachio gelato. And by like day 3, I think we were going to leave the next day, so I was actually eating them 2 at a time. It's disgusting, but I can't help myself. I'm like, I know I'm going to eat this and want more. No, that's right. It was just like that. And my in-laws continue now, 10 years later, whatever it is, to talk about this picture of me with 2 brioche and gelatos
You
in my
made
hand.
love
but
to the brioche.
I made love to that, yes. It's one of my favorite things. And as a breakfast. I mean,
Right.
my great-grandmother always said, eat ice cream for breakfast. It's good for your bones. And if the world ends during the day, you had a great breakfast. I'm like, that's true. She's not wrong. So my family always had ice cream at breakfast. I love that. I wait for that. It's interesting. I find it very interesting when people get to go back and they put a lot of effort in. So where does that leave this idea of encouraging return in your sort of set of responsibilities in your Italian American work? What are you doing now?
So now it's there's a couple of new responsibilities. One, if you've been to the South, you know it's at times forgotten. It's people are leaving their family hometown because the work is in Milan, it's in Rome. So my encouragement is, if you have a drop of Italian blood, first things first, you need to get over there. You need to rediscover your roots. They will take you in, like, even if you didn't know necessarily which town was which relative, and you were looking for those documents, finding out where you really came from, to end up finding out that your grandfather moved from this town to that town, or this region to that region. If you get over there, you will find the nicest people in the world who will take you in, who will show you their traditions, who will just welcome you and want you there. They're ecstatic. I left with like 14 different business ideas. They're like, we need a restaurant here. They want you to come in and help them revitalize the town, bring back that life. And that would be my second responsibility is if there is a shred of Italian blood in you and you're a philanthropist. I love that the Italian organizations do a lot of philanthropy, but in my opinion, it's not necessarily always directed in the right way. We can create opportunities for people in the South, whether it's to make sure they speak English just as well as the kid in Milan does, whether it's to create a system where we can get products from the South. Or if you're Calabrese and you want Calabrese olive oil from this part of Calabria, from Catanzaro, that shouldn't be that hard. The town my grandmother lives in, there will be fruit falling from the tree and it rots in the street because there's no one to pick it, and then there's nowhere to sell it. Making sure that doesn't happen, and then it creates an income stream for those people who live there, and it allows them to revitalize their own town. Yeah, creating opportunity for the south of Italy it's got to be where we focus. We came from there, and we can't abandon it.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about this a lot on the show, but I feel like you obviously have a great role at an institution, really the grand dame of us all, right? The oldest national institution in the country is OSDIA.
1905.
1905, yeah. Two buildings down, really, 3 buildings down from here was founded. I mean, even when I was at NIAF, I used to preach the speech from Vincenzo Solaro. If you haven't read it, go read it, when he founded the organization. But for whatever reason, these institutions, all of them, they tend to think, I think collectively, more about this kind of modern Italy-U.S. bilateral relationship. And, I mean, we did great stuff when I was at NIAF. We used to do these Region of Honor things, and we'd send money to, I remember we did part of the restoration of the Duomo Milan, and we did a restoration of the chapel for the Shroud of Turin in Torino. And again, these are two-way streets, right? They were supporting what we did, but I always felt that it was a little strange, seeing as 80-some-odd% of the people here in America have roots in the South, that we weren't pursuing these kind of things. You've been now from day one at IFL, which I like to think of, I hope we can think of as the sort of think tank for future leadership in Italian America. Do you get the sense, and I mean this genuinely, I'm not leading here, I can't get a sense. You get the sense that Southernism is reflected in the room, and are people, is it going to trend the other way for your generation to be more active in the South?
I hope so. I mean, I really do. I mean, that's one of the things. We actually left IFL. 6 of us had affiliations with OSDIA, and we left, and an organization now within OSDIA is created. I'm the chair of an organization called Future of the Order, and that kind of puts together a forum to get the young people's perspective. What's important to you as a young Italian American? What do organizations need to be doing to focus in the future of Italian America and relationships back with Italy? And I know so many people who want to learn their regional language. They want to learn Italian because they have to go be able to hold boot, and they have to be able to speak as they should.
As they should.
Yeah. But the desire to learn their region's dialect or language, depending on how
Right,
you
what it is,
classified
yeah.
it, what it is so strong. The desire to buy a home. Now there's talks of these like €1 homes, which has way more regulations than just buying a home for €1.
Yeah.
But there is a real desire for people. I think there's a push. If Italy tomorrow said anyone who has a 12.5% Italian blood in them can get dual citizenship and we'll make it a 30-day process, you would see a crazy amount of people who would want to go back to their roots.
And the shame is Italy's going to make it harder.
Yeah,
right.
that's from the
Politically now they're going to make it
understanding
harder. That's one of the reasons I'm so proud of what we have been able to do in Florida, because we need to get that message disseminated out. Like that's a topic we have to have right on this panel this year, and for whatever influence we can have going forward, we need to be saying to Italy, "Hey guys, wait a minute. Think bigger on this, right? Because it's so important." And I was saying earlier, I see you wearing that great lapel pin with the American and Sicilian flags, and I've seen Patrick Campisi, part of IFL, our president of the alumni. And I think somebody else had it
You're
on.
starting a Sicilian fifth column.
No, that's not the
you
intention.
blame me.
No, it's not the intention. But wait,
All of a sudden, they all come with
no,
the pin.
but
Oh, the
my
pin.
point is this.
Oh.
My point is this. Sicilian is obviously very different than the rest of the mainland, right? Whatever it is. But if it was a Campania one, or if it was a Pugliese flag, whatever it is, my point is, it's so nice for me to see, because somebody's got to make that lapel pin, right? And then like people have to buy it, so it's got to. That's a modern manifestation of interest, and enough interest to get it made. So I love to see that stuff, because it says to me, it doesn't have to be a separatist thing. It's just awareness, right? And I think that's very encouraging in the younger generation. You were talking earlier about running into one of the other alumni from IFL 2, coincidentally in New Orleans, but it was a presentation that he did about teaching your kids the regional languages, in this case Sicilian. Got a standing ovation right? It was so moving. What was your relationship with the languages growing up, and where are you on that journey?
It's been a long journey, but a very inspiring one. So when I went to Italy, I knew enough to be dangerous, to get around. I understand. I grew up hearing it in the household. I couldn't have a full-fledged conversation with a fluent Italian. I wouldn't call myself fluent. I probably wouldn't even really call myself conversational. And that really inspired when I was there. You realize that it kind of stinks that you think you're as good as you are because you grew up with it. And then you're in the middle of a conversation, and I've got to look at my grandmother and go, Anna, what did she just say? Yeah. And so then it was like I came back with an absolute new desire to make sure I was fluent in at least Italian and Sicilian, because I do kind of identify more with being Sicilian, but going to Calabria completely changed my mind on that too. I mean, I love now being Calabrese.
They are very nice people.
They are.
As a region, they're very warm and open and welcoming.
Yeah.
And I find Italian Americans who go back to Calabria, I think, have the best reception.
My dad and I
Like the
went.
long lost.
My dad and I
5
went
generations
to.
removed.
We were. I don't know. We had breakfast the other day in Connecticut, and I forget how we ended up. There was like an Italian cafe, and we had. I think wherever we were, I forget. We stumbled on this Italian cafe, and we had a coffee. You could hear Italian being spoken by the guys in the back, and it was just very homey. We had a little coffee, a little pastry, and we got up. It was like 10 in the morning, and we walked past this pizzeria. And these guys were working at 10 in the morning in the pizzeria, and it smelled really good. So my dad's like, I got to get a slice of pizza, right? So we go in, and we're talking to the guy, and where are you from, and that. And so but the last question was, where in Italy is he from? And he said, Calabria. And for some reason, my dad said, it's the Calabresi that are going to save us. And I thought, well, that's really interesting that you say that.
That's like really deep.
That's really deep, right?
That's
very deep.
That we went from oasis in an Italian desert
Yeah.
to the Calabrese will save. Is that like a savior syndrome?
No, I think
The Calabrese will save us?
I don't know. I know when my dad says these things, sometimes I'm like, does he even know what he's saying? Or is he just saying something nice? But I started to think about kind of the Calabrese as the middle mix between everybody in the South.
They're simple, nice people.
But they're a nice mixture of everything. They have, some of that performative Neapolitan. They have some of that stoic, quiet Sicilian. I don't know. It was interesting. Calabria is an interesting place. All I know is I got the flu or whatever plague I got in Calabria when I was there for work because I turned the air conditioning on. They told me not
It's
to.
the only region I have not gone to.
It's the only region you never gone to?
Yes, Sardinia, yes.
We got to do
Because
that.
when I go, Calabria will be overwhelming.
Yeah, we'll be
Because I
overwhelmed.
have to go to so many places and see so many people. That's like a 6-weeker easily.
Yeah, that's I know, and we don't get those weeks anymore. Really, it's harder and harder and harder to get those.
Well, it's tough to hit everything on the bucket list.
Yeah, it is. I know it's increasingly difficult to find the time and be over, and that's why it's so important when you get the opportunity to go that you know.
Let me ask you a question. Back to the festival in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's a big rewind. Good. Go.
Where the podcast.
You surprised me.
Tangential conversation.
I want to hear about the
Ping ball of the intellect.
That's right.
Ping ball, bing, bing, bing. Was it ping ball machine? The ping ball
pinball.
machine.
Yeah.
Pinball. All right. What was the to the non-Italian or the non-Northeasterners, right? So
Yeah.
someone wrote in one of our comments the other day that basically living in New Jersey, even if you're not Italian, you have a degree in being Italian. Right?
That's fair.
It's fair. Well, the fact that you're surrounded by them. But my question is, I don't know how integrated you felt in North Carolina with your real with the native North Carolinians.
Yeah.
But did they find it all kind of strange and bizarre? And you guys come from New York. What was the local reception to a guy from New York? Because they put the whole state in one big basket.
Yeah.
Rome,
Yeah.
New York is very different from Manhattan. But
Certainly.
what was the local impression of who you guys were, and what you were doing and why you were doing it?
I've always felt very welcome to North Carolina. Tremendous. I mean, they've been very receptive to the idea of the city I lived in when I first moved there does their own now declaration for Italian American Heritage Month. They started doing that with me 2 years ago. And Raleigh in the state, the governor does one. And it's a little tough to answer that because of where I'm located. So the city outside of Raleigh called Cary famously is an acronym. Is the containment area for relocated Yankees. So living in North Carolina going on 4 years in January, I could probably count with both hands how many native North Carolinians I know. Even less if you said one who wasn't 2 generations back, eventually a New Yorker or someone from New Jersey.
Is that right?
A lot of IBM had a facility there. A lot of Binghamton, New Yorkers retired there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I mean,
That's wild.
My entire lodge, we're now up. When I joined my lodge of Sons of Italy, we were 78 members. We're now, after this most recent festa, at 280. And I maybe could name one of us that speaks Italian with a southern drawl, which is an interesting thing to hear.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're Northeasterners. So because the area was so ingrained in that, honestly, I don't often hear, what the heck is this thing going on down in Tucker Street? I often hear, thank you. Because even though I'm not Italian, I grew up with this. I grew up with a street fair. I grew up with a festa. And to have this here is like a little slice of home. And so if I was to say do that same, I'm not on the board anymore, so I shouldn't say that. But if we were to put an Italian festa on in Sanford, North Carolina, the reception might be a little bit more different. But in the Raleigh area, there are so many transplants that it just feels like a slice of home for a lot of people.
There's nothing going to change the fabric of the United States. I mean, we talk about this in Italy a lot, right? Being northern versus southern and the immigration and whatnot. What people don't understand today is like, we often joke about this when you get criticism from a northern Italian, you scratch the surface, their grandparents or even parents probably came from the South because that internal migration after the war, a lot of them. It's going to happen here in the United States too. So much blending has happened now.
Yeah,
people moving into places like that. And then
it's globalization.
It's globalization.
In a micro and a macro sense.
It's really interesting to think that like there are people who move down, the Yankees, right, move down from here to the South, and for them, whether they have zero Italian in them at all, the Italian feast in the community is a normal thing, right? So it's like you can see when we have San Gennaro here, how many people come every year, have been coming for generations. They're not Italian at all, and they tell me all the time about how much San Gennaro means for them. So it's an interesting kind of globalized version of our Italian American culture. I think that's so fascinating.
What were the logistical difficulties of trying to put on an Italian feast in North Carolina? I mean, you can't call the Tyrone guy who's 2 towns away.
Certainly.
Or have 5 entertainers lined up because they all live around you.
Yeah. Figuring out with a city, explaining to a city what an Italian festa looks like. Ours is completely secular and done in September, which gets a little bit of pushback. People want it in October with a saint and some mention of Columbus.
That's a wacky combination.
Yeah, they
That's true.
That's
want,
an Italian, because Italians are
I
want to have it in October.
Serving all masters,
Yeah. So that we've gotten pushback on that.
Yeah, but they're never going to be happy.
No,
no matter what you do, they'll never ever be happy.
Yeah.
The most authentic kind of Italian.
Right. Honestly, the city did come around tremendously. Logistically figuring out who could bring what products we wanted. My last year, and I don't believe this year, like I said, I'm not on the board anymore, but I still don't believe this year they had someone who would do Zeppoli. And so, like you said, finding the person who could do Torrone, Ciccioli, Zeppoli, Arancini, it's just not a guarantee where I am.
Wow.
So we've actually, my last year doing it, we had, I think, more food trucks than vendors because we only had so many clubs that would be willing to do this. There's 4 Italian clubs in the Triangle. One that I'm not a part of is the Italian Americans Women of the Triangle. They won't let me in for some reason.
Only we keep that line separate in a lot of places. That's a real thing for Italian Americans.
Yeah. I've tried to be the great unifier and get the men's club and the women's club to join Sons, and then just pitch that we have men's night on Fridays and women's night on Wednesdays.
Because we don't like each other.
Yeah.
That's why we have to have separate organizations. Because I think, people don't realize.
I don't think it's that we don't like. I don't think that then there wouldn't be enough sashes to go around.
Yeah, but a lot of
what it
Italian
is.
women don't want to be in a men's organization.
That's fair too.
That's
That
true.
is
It's
true
not
too.
like I don't want to put up with them.
Gender wise,
and-
that okay, but I mean, as the dope who tried to merge OSDIA, NIAF, ISDA, and Unico
Right.
at 20-something years old, I think, and I say this to all of you out there who are sash-wearing leaders of your organization, I guarantee, I'm quite confident, that the differences in our groups can be overcome if everybody was comfortable putting down the sash and the title. But we're not.
That's not who we are.
But that's not who we are, right? So why change who we are, I guess? But that's a big issue for me. Because, when you go out and try to be the unifier, you do oftentimes, you succeed sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you come home feeling like a real dope, though.
Yeah.
It's discouraging.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And that's probably to bring it all home. The hardest logistical thing for us was to agree. As you can imagine,
Wow.
I'm not.
This is like the triple.
Yeah.
Right? First we got like the mosh posh of the cathedral in Palermo.
Yeah.
Then we have the oasis in an Italian desert, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And now the greatest logistical challenge was getting Italian people to cooperate.
It's not
That
getting
is- wow.
Zeppeli and Torroni to the
We should
Triangle
like
of North
retire
Carolina.
right now.
It's
Wow.
getting the Italians there to agree with
Correct.
each other. That's crazy, but
But you
true.
need 2 rival feasts. We do best.
That's
2
right.
Undertakers down the block.
Yeah.
2 butchers around the corner from each other. We do better with competition because it's like a steam release.
I guess that's probably true.
Because if you get in a fight with one, you can still get the stuff off the other.
Yeah,
If you get in a fight with Butcher 1, you can get the stuff from Butcher 2.
right. That's true. It is. I think you might be right. I don't know. I worry about that sometimes. But that was the hardest thing for you guys.
Our board was, because we're not New York or New Jersey, our board was so small that a vote is almost impossible. If there's 3-4 people, you're always going to end in a tie, or there's just going to be one person who doesn't really know which side because 2 opinions are so drastically different. Do we support veterans or do we support a scholarship to get someone to Italy who's never been? These are real questions that just couldn't really be resolved.
What did you say to me when I took the job at NIAF?
I've said so many. Really.
If
We
I-
could do volumes on the
You said
things I've
something like that from people that you'd known on the board. You said something. You guaranteed me that after a NIAF board meeting or 2, I was going to understand why Italians are not good at democracy. Because when everybody has a vote,
Yeah, correct.
nothing gets
Correct.
done. And you were right. I mean, it's very hard. We are not.
We're the people to filibuster.
Yeah, we're the people. We're the people.
I don't know how
yeah.
you said it in Latin. I'm
Yeah.
sure the
I'm
Senate
sure
in
it was
Rome-
definitely not invented in
Yes.
Greece. It was invented
Was
in
it-
Rome.
absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
What did you do for entertainment?
We had 2 stages. One was a DJ, and there was the Galbani cooking stage, which they come. And then the other one was live entertainment, everything from like Michele Mussolino to a young Italian kid who plays rock music, and he just had a nice vowel at the end of his name, and he wasn't necessarily playing Italian music, but he was an Italian who was talented.
Yeah.
We did everything from, there's a woman who is in our son's lodge who teaches Italian folk dancing. She did that for a couple of years. And that we kind of just did everything in between. Anything we could make work for the Festas, one day, 8 hours, 11 to 7. And so just...
That's a lot of work for one day.
Yeah. It's a year's worth of work for 8 hours.
And God forbid if RAIN shows up.
My 3rd year, we had a hurricane hit the coast, and we thought we were going to be fine because it hit the coast, and we're probably 3 hours in. The part of the city we had chosen to move to looked a lot like New York. It's called Fayetteville Street. Tall skyscrapers, really looks nice, clean part of town. and it creates a wind tunnel. So just the increased winds of, say, 20 miles an hour was enough in there to hit 50. The city called us and said, these tents will not, even weighted down, will not make it. You have to cancel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Right?
they're experts.
This is like, yeah.
That's what, once again, I will say the city of Raleigh really looked out for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when your hockey team's called the Hurricanes,
Right,
you
yeah.
have some experience
some
as to
experience
what's
in
going to
that.
hold up in a windstorm. Yeah.
Yep.
It is crazy. I mean, people don't think about the work that goes into pulling these things off.
Yeah.
And, oftentimes we are, people, the feast is not this anymore. It's not that anymore. It's like, well, you know what? Roll up your sleeves, get involved, do something, make it better. Because that's the only way these things have to have people behind them.
Right.
Otherwise, they are soulless, right?
Yeah.
So be a person behind them. That's all you can really do. I think that's so important.
That's any of the topics in our community. I mean, I think I said it at IEFL too. Kind of be the change you want to see, because I hear people complain all the time. There's not Italian taught in my public school. Well, are you voting at your, at your school boards? Are you going and talking and asking them to teach Italian? Are you providing a resource? Is there someone in your community you've identified that would be interested in teaching Italian, that's qualified to teach Italian? If the answers are all no, is your lodge willing to put up a little impromptu class to just teach Italian however you can? You really have to go out there, and if you're going to complain, that's fine, we're Italian, but at least try to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you talked about before, how do you agree on where the money goes and that's all. It's
I think you have to spend it down.
What? Oh, you
I
mean,
think if you have a festival, that should be the.
Yeah, you think you should break even.
You should break
give away
even.
the rest. Of
No,
it.
I would just make the party bigger, because then you have 8,000 headaches, and 8,001 becomes I have my charity.
Right.
You have your. A cultural event is a charity within itself.
Very true.
Yep.
Very, very true. That's a great point. We get caught up in sometimes the idea of, okay, we're going to have this thing, and then what's the mission? And then the mission is it, right? So, I mean, nobody is better at doubling down on their feast than you are. You haven't come up for his feast yet, have you?
Yeah, but
No,
I'm
I haven't been there.
You're going to have to do that.
Don't compare normal people to me.
No, that's true.
Don't put them in the same.
What's
this
next?
Is so good.
It is really good.
This is so good. If you're out there right now
Be
and
jealous.
you wish you had it, you should be that jealous.
Be very jealous.
It is that good.
What's new for the feast next year? You got anything
I'm
planned?
saying now, because somebody will copy me.
Do you have in your head?
Of course. Oh, it's always in my head.
Yeah, you're usually like this time of year. You're starting to figure out where that money's going to go. Yeah, it's bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Is it a good way to go too? You get people to come back around. We're circling back now through your story, and something you said earlier stuck with me. You said Oneida County is the second kind of population of Italians in New York State
Per capita.
per capita.
Yep.
What's the main city there?
So in that area, technically the closest big city to us isn't actually in Oneida County, it'd be Syracuse.
Okay.
And then the Italian cities there is Utica and Rome.
Okay.
So
Utica, I've heard a lot about. I mean,
Yeah.
Syracuse, great Italian population too.
Yeah.
What about Rome? Rome's always fascinating me because it's called Rome, right? There's a Capitoline wolf in Rome. There's a baseball team in Rome. There's now the Emperors. Right, it plays into its Roman heritage. What is the Italian community like there today? Is there much left?
There's a lot of people there who still have vowels there in the name. The per capita has certainly gone down. Other people have moved in. For a while there was an Air Force base there. That changed the demographics a little bit. But honestly, if the Italians kind of pushed people out as well. If you wanted to start a business that wasn't Italian in Rome, you needed about 1,300 signatures.
Is that really true?
No, I mean...
we had that influence.
That had influence, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I can think of one Americana restaurant growing up. It's a place called Teddy's, and even that had chicken riggies on the menu. They were catering to the Italian
Let's
community.
tell those who are not familiar, because Utica, Syracuse, Binghamton, chicken riggies is an upstate New York Italian delicacy.
Certainly.
What is it?
So you take a red sauce, you mix it with a cream, and you get chicken and peppers, and then you rigatoni pasta, and it just becomes kind of like this spicy vodka sauce, and with peppers in it, with pieces of chicken in it, and it really, I don't know if I've been able to find it outside of Utica and Rome area, maybe an hour each way.
Oh wait, then Binghamton does something different. What is Binghamton has a?
They're like
what's the thing on the
Spadini
grill?
type
The
of-
Spadini type things.
But
That's
that's
Oh,
not
yeah,
the
so
name.
Speedies,
Speedies, something like that.
Speedies.
yeah,
That's a
that
different.
family.
I forgot chicken riggies is a different thing.
The son of that owner actually used to be the head of the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce. He moved down.
Moved
south.
down there.
Yeah.
How about small world, right?
Yep.
See, I love that kind of stuff.
Utica is famous for the pasticciotto.
Is that right?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, that's our.
That's their national.
What?
Yeah, pasticciotto. You didn't? Oh, you people
That's
don't
my
know.
favorite pastry.
John loves pasticciotto.
That's where that's the only place
what
I'm
it
not
right there.
Sicilian is sweets.
Yeah.
I like my Pugliese side for pasta. You know, by the way, talk about Sicilian. Total tangential conversation. Nicole checked our DNA matches yesterday. They changed apparently last week.
You and hers.
Everybody's did. You know, another refresh
No, but I'm
on
saying
the.
she checked-
She just happened to check hers and say, "Oh, check yours." So, I am now. It was interesting because all these years, Sicilian never came up on my DNA, and now,
It's a flashing light.
yeah, I am 99% Southern Italy, which
Okay.
made me very happy. I forget what the other 1% was. Eastern European, but with the concentration in Puglia. Don't ask me how. And the thing I've always come up the most is Pugliese. That's where I have the highest percentage of my DNA is Puglia. It shocks me. So I don't know. I always it feels very strange to not be what you feel. But anyway, I love pasticciotto. That's like my favorite all time. So what is it
They
like?
called them chottis, right? That's
yeah,
the
pasta
colloquial
chops, yeah.
local name is chottis. I
Yeah.
guess it's the
Is it like you
Pasties-
would get
pasties
here?
sell a lot,
same
too.
pasticciotto. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's pasta here. I why don't we go on a gastronomic
I'm dying to go up there.
tour of up there?
I've been dying. Utica's been on my bucket list. Rome always fascinated me. I didn't realize Rome was as Italian as it is.
We have the World Series of Bocce. 18 covered courts. Every
What?
year people
Bocce
come
World
from
Series.
yeah.
So I always thought we'd go visit you in North Carolina to see that festa, but I think we got to do this first. To be honest, that to me is like right in our backyard.
Yeah.
We got to make this happen. What's the drive to Utica?
From here, maybe 5.
That's not that bad.
No.
We can
About 4. I
Four?
did with
Four?
Paul Pacelli for Cosmos and Damien.
we can bang
clocked
that
in
out.
at 4.
All right, we
We
owe
could sing
ourselves
We could sing in the car.
that. Yeah, well, great. You'll fall asleep. What are you talking about?
fall asleep.
If you're not driving, you're sleeping.
I sleep.
Yeah, he's.
Am I like an old man or a baby? Which direction I go?
You're like a baby. That is so true. You fall asleep like
My
a-
mother said I was the only way she ever got me to sleep as a kid because I used to be up all night,
That's-
like 1 o'clock in the
that's
morning.
Gia, same
was
thing.
putting me in the car and driving
That's
me
what we do
around.
to Gia all
you
the
should-
time.
I'd be afraid if I were you.
Oh.
What does it
It's gonna
bode?
turn out like
What does
that.
it bode?
Oh gosh, here we go. Yeah, but that's true. I was talking. We drove to upstate New York, only 2 hours this weekend, and Nikki and I were in the car talking about you falling asleep in the car. It's just
That's
like
my happy
clockwork.
nappy time.
It's your happy nappy time. Yeah,
It's something about a car that just goes.
yeah. If you are going to do a road trip with Pat, and you expect all of those hours of brilliant conversation and
Gonna
different,
happen.
forget about it.
I fell asleep on a. You know that story.
You did. You fell asleep on the Princess
On a
Beatrice.
Yeah, Princess
You
Beatrice.
slept on a royal
We
shoulder
were sitting
from
next to each other, and I went.
yeah
and I
for like
just-
3 hours from
It's true.
Campania all the way through Basilicata.
She was very
she just kept
kind.
patting your head. Yeah,
She was very
she's-
kind.
She's
She was
very
very kind.
She loved you very much. But
very
don't
kind.
expect a fun car, Pat.
Let's go
Doesn't
to. We
happen.
went to. We had a really ping pong.
We ping ponged around today. But that's fun.
That's
That's
fun.
why it's nice having people that we get
'Cause
to
we're
know
happy.
and we are
I didn't
happy.
eat for
Because we're
24 hours.
fed. That's
Intermittent
absolutely right.
fasting. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as we wrap up, Mike, we're going to see you, I hope, in January.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say you have done a lot, not just with the festa,
He's a
but
future
with-
leader.
Yeah, you're a future
You're
leader.
the act. Well, you're on because you are a model future leader.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
This
God
is
bless you.
exactly what IFL is all about.
Yeah.
You are the poster child of IFL. Everything we wanted, we got in you.
And
Grazie.
can we lift?
So-
Can we lift the veil on our
But most of
community's
all, we
dysfunction?
got
Yeah, might as well.
the
Now
gabagool
you're
today.
just a mule
Yeah,
for
right.
salted meats. But I want to lift the veil on our community a little bit because we have great representation from OSDIA comes to IFL. We have some great unicans to come. There's always that internal pull as to whether people can do all these things. And you and the other future leaders from at least Osai in this case and Unico, you push back and you let the older generations know, like, yeah, we can be part of this and still part of ours. And I want to thank you for that because if it doesn't happen,
We wouldn't have met without IFL 1.
There you
And to not return would be a little. I would be a little silly. I wouldn't have met my girlfriend without IFL 1. Creates photo. It's that
creates photo. Tell the story. Now you got to tell the story. How did you
This
meet?
creates photo.
I don't know what that means.
photos that Future of the Order that OSDIA
I thought you meant she saw a photo of you. She
No,
liked
no.
you. Oh, I'm sorry.
She's actually one of our fratelli from photo. We met there.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
Future of the Order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
I don't meet my girlfriend Christina without having gone to IFL 1.
There you
And
go.
then she attended IFL 2.
See, this is what
We
we're
have
here
a
for,
couple
folks.
of couples we're responsible for.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say, when you're
We should have
happy and
green, white, and red hearts. Like every time we get a couple, There's a green, white, and red heart.
Yeah, we'll hang it
Green,
from
white,
the
and red
tree.
heart.
Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to you guys hopefully both being back, and I'm looking forward.
More importantly,
Yeah.
this is you can't see Christine; she's in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put an offer out to your dad.
Oh boy.
We will come out and film a podcast, a postcards episode of him making. But we got to see the real deal. He can't change. He cannot change. I know the Italian. Oh no, I forgot to put it in because this is nuclear power. This is like when they try to get the formula for the nuclear bomb. This is nuclear power. But I got to make sure I got my cameraman. Say hello, Nikki. Nikki, you got to be on board. We're gonna come film. Get him ready now. But we got to get the real recipe. Because forget about it. This is.
We're in. We will make a point.
We got a lot done today.
It's a good day. It's a really good day. Yep. It was right. This place is gonna get caught. Hurricane's gonna come through here tomorrow and we'll be gone. But for now, we did have a really good day. I hope you all out there had a really good day. I should say y'all out there. And in this conversation, it took us from the Carolinas to Calabria and back. We are really, really happy to have Mike DeMora here and in our lives through the IFL. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you.
That you're born in Italian. If you want your life to be great, see that you're born in Italiano, and your life will be great. See that you're born in Italiano.